Live from their living rooms, it's The Director's Chair with Stanton Welch.
Hi everyone, it's Stanton Welch again, and here with another Houston Ballet vlog. And today I have with us Yuriko Kajiya. Hello Yuriko, how are you?
Hi Stanton.
How have you been? What have you been doing in isolation?
Well, it's hard to believe. It's almost 2 months at this point.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah, definitely, could be better, but I'm doing okay so far.
Yeah.
Only not good. Yeah.
So let's start. We're just going to talk a little bit to let the audience get to know you a little bit better. So could you first of all just tell us where you're from and
Okay.
when was the moment that you thought ballet is the thing that you wanted to do?
Okay. So I'm from Japan, so I'm Japanese, but I actually studied ballet in China. I was doing little bit of ballet when I was in Japan from age 8 to 10. But I was one of those after school once a week. My parents were working, so they were trying to keep me busy of different activities. So ballet was one of them. Not talented for sure. Didn't like it very much. I do remember the first class I did I was holding on to the bar crying because I didn't want to be there. I think it's pretty difficult. Either you love it or you hate it. I don't know. But after that, at age 10, I moved to China to go to Shanghai Dance School.
Uh-huh.
And even then, I still didn't like it very much. Most people think, oh, you must have moved to China because you loved it so much. And that was not the case for me. I just went because they say there's a school, and the intention was never for me to become ballerina or dancer, none of that. Just go there maybe for like, I don't know, a month and experience.
Yeah.
But then after 3 years later, about 13, I think we started doing like variations or maybe working towards competition. So I like the process of the practice part. Like as a child, like, you put however much you practice, the teacher will say, oh, you got better, or that looks better. And that started to got me into, oh, when I practice, I get better. And then after that, I was in the studio and then became a bunhead and started to love ballet. And then I went on to fall in love with ballet.
Was there a performance early on that you saw as a child that you remember loving the magic of it or the show?
Actually, I didn't really have a performance that I saw because back in the day, we didn't have the internet like so easily like then. And because I was in China and I was a little bit isolated, we like in the dorm, we didn't have the TV or access to any of the outside information much. So I didn't have a lot of information of what's happening or other ballerina or other companies. But what I did have was whenever I went back to Japan, the Pre-Dozan competition gets aired on TV. In Japan. So I was watching that and seeing the young dancers succeed and go to another company or winning the competition definitely gave me oh, that's something I want to do. So that was the inspiration for sure.
I think a lot of people don't realize, because there are so many wonderful Japanese dancers that I have met, but in Japan in the 90s, there wasn't much ballet in Japan.
There were lots, but was not open for sure. It was just inside, and very few dancers went out. Like Yoko Morishita was one of the one that went out.
She did Butterfly.
Yeah.
She was a beautiful dancer. So then from there you came to Canada and then to New York. Could you talk a little bit about that?
So after winning the Pre-Dozan competition, I did that competition when I was 15. And actually from the pre, everything kind of connected in a way. When I was at the Pre-Dozan, one of the jury members was Kevin McKenzie, who is the director of ABT. And the coach that they had that year was Karen Kane, who is now the director for National Ballet of Canada. So after the pre, I went to Canada the school, Canada's National Ballet School. And then from there, I went to audition for ABT Studio Company. And that's how I joined ABT.
Yeah.
And then from there, can I continue?
Yeah, sure.
So when my first day at ABT Studio Company, I want everyone in the audience to know that I was working with Stanton. So the whole thing just connected. And then now, of course, I'm working with you in Houston Ballet. So.
And it was my first, when I moved to America, when I first moved.
Really?
Yeah, I'd been in the school when I was 18, but then I'd lived in Australia, but I moved there and that was my first.
Oh, wow.
And it's a big city to be a foreigner and living so far away from home. It's quite an experience.
For sure.
So let's just talk about then, as a company member, I think for young people, when you go from being in a school to being in the company is quite a change, and you join the Corps de Ballet and suddenly your responsibility is different. And could you talk a little bit about that? What would you love to tell a young dancer or someone who's about to experience that you wish you'd known, then?
I mean, you definitely have to. I was pretty determined, I should say. I don't know if determined is the right word, but I was very focused for sure. I knew what I wanted. I loved what I was doing. So I wasn't as distracted, but I can see the young dancers can be easily distracted when you first join the company, because you don't have the teachers that's always telling you what to do. When you get into the company, you have the coaches. Yes, you have wonderful ballet master and ballet mistress that you will work with the company, but they're responsible for a whole organization, whole dancers in the company, not just you. Yes, they will coach you, but you have to be responsible. You have to be ready what to do. So it's very easily get distracted, especially around that age. You'll probably start living by yourself, so you have other distraction outside. I mean, so those are the things that you have to know why you love and why you join the company. And you have so many, when you join the company, you have so many dancers you can look up to. So you have to know that why you're in the company and why you love.
And why it's important to watch them and to learn from them.
Yes.
Yeah. So then tell us about, what was the first time where you got a role and you thought, oh my goodness, this is a big deal, or I can't believe I got cast in that, or your first time opening night or something? Was there a moment that you think back on fondly and think, wow, that really was special?
There were a few when I was younger. So this will be before joining Houston Ballet. So just when I was at ABT, one of the very scary one was team variation. One of the principal dancers got injured, and I wasn't learning or anything, but they have told me that, okay, now you're learning, you're going to perform in, I don't know, 2 days, 3 days.
Oh, really?
From scratch. I mean, that ballet is a beast, and you have to really train yourself. Yeah. And I'm not trained balancing, so that aspect was already challenging. The ballet itself is a monster. So, but then, of course, I was so young that I was just like, oh, this is so exciting, I'm going to do it. But then after the show, you're just like, what have I just done? Did I point my feet in the end? What just happened? So it was a bit scary, for sure.
There's a freedom in it, though, right? Like that you when you get thrown on in something, that you just go for it.
You just do it.
Yeah.
Sure.
And what about a role that was your first sort of where you really felt honored and special and?
There are two. One is Giselle. When I first premiered Giselle when I was on with American Ballet Theater, and prior to Giselle, all the roles I have done are more powerful, technical, anything that has big jump and fast. That's what I was doing at the time. And then Giselle was something so different than what I was doing, and the drama, and it's a ballerina role, so it was very special. And I was working with the my coach at ABT, Irina Kopakova, who is a legend, living legend ballerina. So learn from her and I actually worked on it for, when you're in a company, when you do a role, sometimes you only work on for like a month is quite a long time if you get to really work on it. But we worked on it for like close to 4 months, really every day, talking about it, different ideas. So that was very special for me to do. And then after joining Houston Ballet, obviously Giselle is still very special and have you created this beautiful ballet and I was the opening night. So that was very special. But besides Giselle, Madame Butterfly is close to my heart. And I mean, how did you even come up with that ballet is another question. But, I mean, obviously the beautiful music, it's just, you can close your eyes and can tear up from just hearing the music. But the pas de deux that you created and the whole ballet is so magical. And
well, Japan is magical. I mean, we went with the company a lot on tour, and I just fell in love with it as a country and all the ceremony and such history. It's a magical place. I mean, we were lucky to have been there before I made the ballet.
Oh, yeah.
Well, good. Okay, so I'm just checking my notes. Well, you've talked about basically. I wanted to know your first big role, throw it on role, and creative role. But let's talk about creative roles. So we made Giselle. Let's talk a little bit about that. How is it when you have something that exists already, and then you're making a new version? You want to honor what you've had from the past, but you also want to explore new ways.
Sure.
Can you talk about finding that with Giselle?
Well, I think that goes not just with new creation, is the existing ballet, but every time you do a ballet, because you have gained not just like experience as a dancer, but as a person, you have grown and different experiences changes your mind or your thoughts. So that already changes it. So that I was already in a different place than when I did Giselle the first time, or even the time you did the one before. Because even when you perform the week apart, it changes too, depending on the, after the first show, you start to think differently. But having a new creation with you was very, it was very fun because I wanted to see where you were going, and the music was definitely throwing everybody off a little bit. I was like, what? What's this music?
That helped. I thought it helped make it different because it was the same, but not the same.
No. And I think the part that was most interesting for me was definitely the mat scene, because it was 3 times longer with the music that most people are not familiar with. And there's so much possibility that I could do, and I see you with your direction, and you have guided me. I feel like the gesture for that I would say that how you guided me was definitely like this. You were giving me the structure of how you wanted to do, and then you sent me to a place that you were watching me find my way, and then you will just guide me to how about this way or that way. And I feel like we were trying to create in a place that what works and what is right for that scene, and that's new for everybody.
Yeah, and I think it became a much more natural.
Yes.
Natural
sometimes I can see you were watching my reaction, and then you're like, okay, this is how it's gonna go. And I was watching your reaction. It was so natural. Nothing was forced. And
Good.
I think that's why it made it so beautiful.
Yeah. And it was gorgeous set and costumes with Roberta.
Yeah.
I thought the trees in Act 2 and the way that you move through the light is really magic. Talk a little bit about as the Willie, that creation of stillness and how you float. How do you move at such speed and then stop and then float and leave the stage?
Oh, that's so hard. I mean, I don't think I can ever say I have mastered this. No, because it's always a process of working on it, because it's so different than any other ballets. Just one little step, one little move has to transform to a whole nother level in a different world, different place for the audience to see and how I feel. So, oh, it's so difficult, but definitely, and you also have to work with the costume to see how the tool will move, so I can use that for my advantage also. And having a wonderful partner, I had a Connor Welch is my Alfred, and helping me look like I was really floating in the air, that helps too.
And there's something with Giselle that's very zen in the fact that it is the simplicity of just a turned up palm or a sigh in the body that means such an enormous amount of emotion.
Yes, sometimes a lot of time, you know, when you try to do so much, feels like you're doing a lot. But in Giselle and second act, that minimum stillness is the most beautiful thing for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Hard.
The hardest thing. So tell us about one of those moments that dancers get to have on stage where you just completely lose yourself in the role, that you're sobbing or you're in love or you're just completely removed. Can you tell us about an experience of that you've had in your career where you just had to remind yourself to come back?
When we did Modern Butterfly a few years ago, we were performing Butterfly at Miller Outdoor Theater, and I was honored to do the Butterfly maybe 4 shows in a row, and Butterfly finishes with her stabbing herself, and it just the whole emotion of giving your child away, and I mean the music and the choreography, and I was so into it, but at the same time as an artist and knowing the choreography and what comes next, you still have to hold off of what you're feeling. I want to, or I would have just go stop, but I still have to do my step. So it's a battle of like how much you still have to hold off a little bit so you have something to show as a dancer. I couldn't just, but that part was definitely very challenging. But after the show, it just felt like there was a hole in my heart because it just felt so empty. But then that was a performance. It's a performance. So after the show, I just felt like, oh, I have to take my makeup off and I still have to go back to being Yuriko and go home. So that part was always a bit of a struggle. It's like, that was a performance and I have to come back to my life.
They were the most fun shows, I think, where you just felt spent.
Yes, I just give everything and nothing left. Yes.
So just on a finishing note, I'm asking everybody to describe that relationship that we have with our audience, that when we're in the theater together and you feel them laugh or you feel them clap or bravo with excitement, or even when you're bowing, can you describe as a dancer what that sensation is when we have our audience with us?
When I feel like a performance went well, I mean, obviously the turn went well or your leg balanced, stuff like that, sure. But those are just small details. And when the performance I felt fulfilled and felt good is when the audience and myself or the stage with the company felt one, connected. And it's not something you can see that, oh, it's one, but it's the air in the theater. You can feel the warmth of the theater becomes one. And easier one will be, of course, when they are very excited and when you hear it, that's definitely exciting. But there's also the silent part. But the silent part has a two-way, I believe, because I had this one memorable performance that I did back at American Ballet Theater. I was doing Kitri in Spain, and when the curtain went up, when the ballet started, I did my solos. it is silence. But the silence is, I can feel the audience challenging me because they were saying, who is this very young Japanese ballerina doing the Spanish kitri? So I can feel that they're like, let's see what she can do. So it was very cold. But then throughout that one ballet, I can feel the coldness becomes warm and then it becomes warm. So there is the scary silence, and then there is the silence that you know there's silence and you can feel it, there's silence because they're so into your performance. So we can feel everything from what the audience is feeling, I think.
Yeah, they breathe with you, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it's nice to see you, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Yes, thank you, Stanton.
Nice to see you.
Bye.
Bye.